can do it reverse like how I did it. I don't know, let us say I don't know what is the LLT term. You can go into Medra browser, play along with it, like how we did, and you guys were able to point out pain in arm, and you can do that and then copy paste this LLT into description to Pico. This has to be same as this. From a listing standpoint, which we'll go into details in different modules, you will understand, but that is pretty much what you need to do here. Now, we don't use all this clinical science and all those things. Let us say this is a symptom. You can make it a symptom here. Now, the same way, let us say the patient has, heart failure. Let us create a condition called heart failure. Now, I know this is a LLT term, so I'll just do it straightforward. So you see heart failure coded into LLT term of heart failure, PT term of cardiac failure, and cardiac disorders. Now, if you look at the thing, it's uniaxial. Like once you code heart failure to cardiac failure, it will only go to cardiac disorders. You can't really take it to a different SOC or a different higher hierarchy. But let us say, for example, there is an event called pneumonia. So I'm giving you different scenarios so you will be able to relate to it. So if you say pneumonia, now here, when I click on pneumonia in the LLT term, it is giving me two SOCs. It is giving, the Medra dictionary is giving, hey, you can code the LLT term of pneumonia to a PT term of pneumonia, which can be an infection or it can also be in respiratory disorders. So this is called Medra being multi-axial. You can, multi-axial is only after PT term. It is not below PT term. Below PT term is always one direction, but from PT, it can bifurcate. Sometimes you might even see three SOCs, three system organ classes involved in it. So at this point in time, when you have this kind of a dilemma, which SOC should I code to? Yeah, it is pneumonia, but should I code it into infections or should I code it into respiratory? This is where your prospective company coding conventions will come into place. And they will tell you, let's say you got hired into a company, the first day of your training, at some point in the first week, they'll train you on their coding conventions, which may mimic Medra coding conventions, MSSO coding conventions, which is very universal. And they keep updating it every 2 times a year and all those things. So what they do is the coding conventions that the Medra is following, they are just a guideline. It's not a mandate, but the company will try to simulate what the Medra coding conventions are, and every company will have its own coding conventions. So let's say in the company that you work, they say that every pneumonia should be coded to respiratory disorders, and that's exactly what you do. Now, some of you might get a question: why do I have to do this? Why do I have to code it to respiratory disorders? It's a it's a it's a labeling question. It's a labeling perspective. Let's say your drug is in clinical trials, about to be approved, or it's already in post marketing, and you are trying to evaluate the safety profile of the drug. A simple question for some of you coming into safety or coming into these classes for the very first time to understand is, would you buy a drug if it says on the label, in the front of the label, that you may experience infections, versus the same label saying you may experience respiratory disorders? Most likely you might take the drug, you might buy the drug, or you might accept the drug if the label says you may experience respiratory disorders rather than infections. Making sense? So that is the reason why labeling is not just an science, it's an art and a science. So you need to read below the label as well. And that's why every time I buy a drug, I look at the label, and I also look at what is in the fine print. So you got to get used to how safety works with commercial part of it, and that's a total different topic. But they may ask you, why do you have to follow the company coding conventions? Your simple answer is for labeling purposes. That's a very simple answer to give them the whole scenario. So once you click on it, well, let's say we kind of go into pneumonia.